Hello bookish friends and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lexi and today we are doing the mid-year freakout tag. So you've probably seen this Louie, come on. So you've probably seen this tag all over YouTube by now and you probably know all the prompts. I will leave them all listed below. Sorry about Louie, he's very needy right now. But I don't usually do videos like this. I don't think I did this last year, but I figured it would be a good way to kind of figure out what my top books of the first half of the year are. And let me tell you, the books that I have in front of me, we have a lot of good ones, and then I also have a couple crappy ones that I'm like, don't waste your time. We'll get to that. If you want to hear some of my favorites and what I've been reading, what I've been doing, what I plan to do for the rest of the year, definitely make sure to stay tuned. We're gonna get right into it. I'm not gonna sit here and talk for hours and have a 20-minute intro, so let's just get right into the mid-year freakout tag. The first prompt we have, or a question I should say, is the best book you've read so far in 2024. And I have three because I literally just couldn't choose between these three, because when I look back at the books that I've read so far this year, these are just like the top three that I still think about all the time to this day. And if somebody needs a specific book rec in either of these categories, I'm like, that's the one. So the first book I have here, and I'll do this in reading order, is Craving by Helen Hart. I freaking love this series, and if you've been subscribed to my channel or even follow me on Instagram for a while, you would know that this series took over my life in February, and I am fully obsessed with this series. I'm up to book 6 at this point. I have 7, 8, and 9 that I need to read before I can like go and purchase the other books, but this is the Steele Brothers series by Helen Hart. This is like a 28 or 29 book series, and she just announced that the last and final book is coming out, and I'm like, wait, I don't want this series to ever end. This is a very, very dark romance, so if you are sensitive to certain things, please look up trigger warnings, because this series is not going to be for everybody. This gives me like 50 Shades of Grey vibes, but maybe like a little more intense and a little more effed up. So I love this book. This is one that I will never ever part ways with, and anybody that's looking for like some raunchy sex and some like twisted deep dark stuff, this is the series for them. So I couldn't not say this one because this series legitimately has taken over my life this year. The next book is Matthew Perry's memoir, Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. I can't talk too much about Matthew Perry because I literally tear up every time. If you don't know anything about me, I am a huge Friends fan. Like when I am feeling anxious, stressed, whatever the case may be, Friends is like the one show I just put on, and just hearing it makes me like zen out. So I was like absolutely heartbroken when Matthew Perry passed away, and instantly listened to his audiobook and fell in love with this and had to have a physical copy for myself. This is just the definition of my perfect memoir. I listened to Britney Spears' as well, and I feel like she touched really surface level. The information she gave us in her memoir, we all kind of already knew. You were just like seeing it from her perspective, whereas stuff in this, like you didn't know some of the stuff that happened in Matthew Perry's life, and he would say like, yeah, during this season this is where I was at mentally, and this is what drugs or alcohol I was doing. And it's just like crazy to look back and watch the episodes now and know like what he was going through. So definitely made me love Matthew Perry even more. And I will say, there is nobody in the world that was born to play their role more than Matthew Perry. Like him and Chandler Bing, like that role was just, it had to have been written specifically for him. So absolutely love this. If you are a Friends fan or you just like Matthew Perry, I don't know why you haven't read this yet. The last book I have on my list for the best books I've read so far in 2024 is Wild Love by Elsie Silver. This was my first time reading from her, and this was a very unexpected 5 stars, and I just love this. I like absolutely love this. I'm not going to tell you the synopsis of this because that would just make this video so long, and I'm honestly not great at describing what books are about because I just like ramble on too much, and I'm not trying to do that. So just know that you will also see this for a couple other prompts later on. The next question is the best sequel you've read so far in 2024, and I had the easiest time picking this one because I already knew it was going to be Finley Donovan Rolls the Dice. This is book 4 in the Finley Donovan series, and this was probably one of my favorites so far. I think it goes, the original Finley Donovan is killing it, and then this one. These books are just so fun. They're cozy mysteries, and the whole premise of the series is that Finley was in a Panera talking about her next book because she writes like romantic thrillers, and somebody overhears her talking with her publisher or her editor about it and thinks that she's like a paid assassin, and it just gets chaotic from there. I love the relationships in here. I love the relationship Finley has with her kids. I just love all these characters. Like, there's nothing wrong with this series. There's literally not one single thing wrong with this series, and I highly recommend listening to these on audio because it's a much better experience when you read it on audio. And I don't know, I love it. I think book 5 comes out next year. I have no bad words about this book and this series because this was easily the best sequel I've read so far this year. The next question is a new book you haven't read yet but want to. And this is kind of like cheating because I literally just got this. It's June 21st as I'm filming this, and I literally just bought this on June 18th. But like, this has been one that I've been just waiting for, and that is Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. This is his newest release, and this is just a book that, obviously it's new. I haven't read it yet, but I really want to. And I think I'm gonna get to this sooner rather than later because I have loved all of Riley Sager's books. I think I'm behind on his backlist by a couple books, but pretty much all of them but one I've absolutely loved. And I love the way he writes, and I love how there's always like a little paranormal twist to his books. So this one says, a man must contend with the long ago disappearance of his childhood best friend and the dark secrets lurking just beyond the safe confines of his picture perfect neighborhood. I think this kid went missing when they were young. He comes back like 20 years later and then like tries to figure out what happened to his best friend and how. I'm pretty sure they were like camping and sleeping in a tent together, and then he woke up the next morning and his best friend was just like gone and never reappeared. And that is just like, that's my type of thriller, man. So this is a book I haven't read yet, but I really, really want to, and I cannot wait to get to this. The next question is my most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and I have two. The first one is Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver, because obviously I love Wild Love so much that I just feel like I'm gonna love this. And this follows Weston, who is Rosie's brother from the first book. So it kind of is in the same universe. It's obviously in Rose Hill. I love that one so much that I just know I'm gonna love this one too, and I just can't wait to read West's story. So that's one. And then the other one is Somewhere Beyond the Sea by TJ Klune. This is the second book to The House in the Cerulean Sea, which I absolutely loved. I've read two TJ Klune books. One is Under the Whispering Door and The House in the Cerulean Sea, and I definitely prefer House in the Cerulean Sea. So when I saw that this one was coming out, I was like, oh, hell yeah. I think this comes out September 10th. I think it's like in the future after like everybody has like left and abandoned that house, I'm pretty sure. Let's just read the description. A magical house, a secret past, a summons that could change everything. Arthur Parnassus lives a good life built on the ashes of a bad one. He's the master of a strange orphanage on a distant, peculiar island, and he hopes to soon be the adoptive father to the 6 dangerous and magical children who live there. Arthur works hard and loves with his whole heart, so none of the children ever feel the neglect and pain they once felt as an orphan on that very same island so long ago. He is not alone. Joining him is the love of his life, Linus Baker, a former caseworker in the department in charge of magical youth. And then there's the island spirit, Zoe Chapelwhite, and her girlfriend, Mayor Helen Webb. Together they will do anything to protect the children, but when Arthur is summoned to make a public statement about his dark past, he finds himself at the helm of a fight for the future that his family and all magical people deserve. What happened in the first one? It has been so long since I've read this that I literally have no idea what happens. Oh, Arthur's the one that lived at the orphanage before Linus got there, and then I think they like fell in love. So that makes sense. But I don't understand why they're saying like so long ago. Maybe it's like takes place in the future, I don't know. Those are the two books I'm so excited to read, and they're so anticipated for me going into the end of the year. Let's see when Wild Eyes comes out first. So the TJ Klune book comes out September 10th, and Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver comes out September 3rd. So that's gonna be a good week. Like 2 weeks span. So those are the two books that I am most anticipating going into the second half of the year. The next question is the biggest surprise, and I have to say it was the entire Part of Your World series. So we have Part of Your World, Yours Truly, and then Just for the Summer, all by Abby Jimenez. I've had this book for so long. I'm pretty sure I found this at like a used bookstore, and it just like sat on my shelves, and I was like, I don't think I'm gonna like that. Like, just doesn't seem like my vibe. I like spice in my romances, and I like a lot of spice. So I was like, And then I finally, after like months of waiting, got the audiobook through my library, and I was like, wait a second, this book is so freaking good. And then I listened to Yours Truly, and I was like, wait, that book was even better. And then Just for the Summer, I just listened to it, and I was like, wait a second, I didn't think they could get any better after this one. And this one blew my freaking mind. Like, this series is so good. I like it because it has all the things that I like in a book. It has romance, it has spice. It talks about real life issues like anxiety, depression, like stuff like that. And it's just so realistic. I mean, let's be real, it gets a little cringy and a little corny because these couples just like instantly fall in love with each other, and it's like, okay, that's not realistic. But just the way these characters each have their own specific story that's like theirs and theirs only, the sweetness that these men bring into these girls' lives and vice versa, it's just, oh, it's so sweet. This is just like the best book series ever. And they're not necessarily a series, but they're interconnected, and it's called the Part of the Your World series on Goodreads. And you can read them as standalones, and you can read them as like in whatever order you want to, but I do recommend reading them in order because in this one there are so many like full circle moments that you're like, oh my god, now it all makes sense. I absolutely love this freaking series. These books are just fantastic, and I was like actually blown away by how much I like them. Now we're gonna talk some shit real quick, and it's not gonna take long because I don't want to talk about these books because they just like were so disappointing. The next question is the biggest disappointment, and quickly I'll talk about Iron Flame. Before I say that why this was such a disappointment, I'm 1000% continuing on with the series because like now I just like need to know what happens. I already pre-ordered the third book that's coming out in January of 2025 with the special edges because I have the first and second book with like the first edition sprayed edges, whatever. I read however many pages this freaking book is, over 600. It's like 629. The entire time this was all just like build up and not really doing anything. Xaden and Violet were having some great sex, whatnot, and then this little tiny portion of the book is when everything happened. And I hate books like that because it's like you read so much action and it's just like you're like having whiplash on what the hell is happening, who did what, did this person survive, who got killed, who's still alive. Like all of that stuff happened in such a short time frame that when it was over I was like, what did I just read? I have no idea what just happened. And then the ending, I personally didn't like how it ended. I was kind of like, that's how we're gonna end this. Fourth Wing ended on such a cliffhanger that I was like, fuck, now I have to wait for the next book. Whereas this one I was kind of like, okay, so where are we gonna go from here? Like, that's the ending. Okay, just whatever. How is the story gonna continue? But this was definitely a disappointing book. Not to say I didn't like it. I still thought it was pretty good, but it wasn't like anything special. But all that to say, I definitely will continue on with the series because I am invested and whatnot, but this was a little disappointing, I'm not gonna lie. The next book I have, I absolutely fucking hated, so I'm just gonna briefly pass over this. This is The Housemaid is Watching by Frida McFadden. This is the third book in the Housemaid series or whatever the fuck it's called. This book was terrible. If you follow me on Goodreads, you saw my little rant saying that like this was a waste of my time. I read 50% of it and legitimately nothing happened. Whereas in the first two books, they were so freaking good. It was constantly like, what the hell was actually happening? Who was who? Who's against who? Who's with who? And all of that. But this book fucking sucked. Nothing happened. I ended up reaching out to some of my book friends and being like, can you just tell me how it ends? Because I'm not reading a single second. And they told me and I was like, that's how that happened. So far-fetched. There was never any inkling of the ending in the first 50% of that book. That is just a waste of my time. I hated how the entire fucking time Millie was just like, my life is so normal. I love my small, tiny, little cozy house. Like, my kids are so perfect. And she ended pretty much every single chapter with saying, is this a mistake? I just keep hoping I didn't make a mistake. Did we rush into this? And I was like, shut the fuck up. Like, just figure out who's killing who's getting murdered, and move on with it. Okay, I'm done. I'm not even gonna talk anymore about that book because I just, if you read the first two and you're thinking about reading the third one, don't do it. Okay, next question is my favorite new author, and I have three because these are all authors I've discovered this year. The first one is obviously Miss Elsie Silver. I was not expecting to love this book as much, and now I can't wait to read more from her. The next author is Helen Hart because she literally just like stole my heart with this series, and I can't wait to continue reading her, and I just love her writing style. And then the third author I had to mention is Richard Osman, who is the author of the Thursday Murder Club. All three of these authors have just become like my favorite, and it's just crazy for me to say that because I usually don't read a lot of one author's books. I usually read a bunch of different authors, so the fact that all of these authors have series that I can like binge and read a ton of books from each of them says a lot. So these are definitely my top three authors of 2024 so far, and I can't wait to continue reading all of these series. I know I keep talking about this damn book, but the next one is your newest fictional crush, and that has to be Ford Gray. Like, when I was reading this, I was like, that is my perfect man. Not only is he freaking loaded, but he is so humble when it comes to how much money he has, and he's kind of just like, eh, whatever, but then has like $1,000 boots. Like, I just love him. And I loved his attitude. Like, he could like mess around with Rosie and just be like, you know what, shut the hell up, and then they would just like start making out and have sex, and I was like, that is like ideal. I don't know what it was about him. I just loved him, and I loved how he just like instantly took in this daughter and raised her as, I mean, it was his own child, but he just was like, oh, you're my daughter? Sure, I'll give you everything you want in life and make your life even more special. And he just like truly cared about his daughter and Rosie, and just like the banter between these two, I was like, ah. Oh, I just love him. I usually don't do the whole like fictional boyfriend thing because I think it's kind of weird, and I've never really read a man that I'm like, that is my perfect man, until I met Ford Grant. Ford Grant is my newest fictional crush. I think that's the last time I mentioned that book. Okay, next question is books that made me cry, and very quickly, obviously I sobbed my fucking eyes out for this book because it was hard listening to this, because obviously he is no longer with us. So he makes like comments about like, oh, I should be dead, and it's like, now it's kind of crazy that however many years later, when was this published? 2022, so 2 years later he's gone, and it's just, I cried for this, and I'm not gonna say anything else because I will start crying. And then the other book that made me cry was Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. Just for obvious reasons, like Magnolia, I just wanted to hug her, and every time BJ did something stupid, I just was like, I just wanted to cry for her because I felt every fucking emotion she was feeling throughout this, and it takes a lot for me to cry in a book, but these two definitely did it. Okay, next, books that made me happy. I'm just gonna quickly talk about these because I've already talked about them. Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I listened to the audiobook for this and I was straight up giggling in my car. Like straight up giggling when certain things would happen. So this one made me so freaking happy. It also made me really sad, but like made me more happy than it made me sad. So Wild Love by Elsie Silver. I'm not gonna talk about it again, I promise. And then The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. This is just like a feel-good series. This is a cozy mystery where these 4 people living in like a retirement village get together every Thursday and solve cold cases, and then one day a real case comes right into their little area and they have to use their expertise from their previous careers to solve murders. And it is just, this book will just put so many smiles on your face, just trust me. The next question I kind of tailored a little bit because I wanted to, and it is the most beautiful / special book you bought or received this year, and I have a couple. My most favorite one being The Wilds by Sarah Pierce, and I chose this one because it's an early copy. And if you have been watching my channel at all or anything, you know that The Sanatorium by Sarah Pierce is one of my favorite books of literally all time. It probably is my favorite book of all time. And this is the 3rd book in that series, the Ellen Warner detective series. And last summer, I had somebody from Penguin Random House reach out to me and ask if they could send me the 2nd book, The Retreat, to this series. And I was like, no, I already read it, like don't waste it. And then when I found out that this was publishing this summer, I reached back out to that same person and I was like, hey, shooting my shot here. What are the chances of me getting an early copy? And they sent me one, so this is now my most prized possession. I'm never letting this out of my sight. Nobody can ever borrow this book, so don't ask me. I just love this book. This series is how all thrillers should be like written. This takes you through such a journey of figuring out kind of what goes through like a detective's mind and how they solve certain things, and this book was phenomenal. I gave it 5 stars. I just like the way Sarah Pierce writes thrillers because she doesn't tell you everything that you need to know in the last 10% of the book. She literally like uses the entire book to kind of help you put all those little pieces together. So this is one of my most special books I received this year. Another very special book I received this year is Serendipity by Becky Charlson. This is her 2nd novel, and this is also an early copy. That's why it has like this black sleeve. Becky is related to Chris, my husband, and she is just phenomenal. These are such good beach reads. If you want like something that's gonna tear your heart apart and then put it back together by the end and you get your happy ending, this is the book for you. She also has Kismet out, that came out last year, so if you're looking for a really good beach read, I highly recommend this. And then I had to throw this one in here because this book is just beautiful, and that is The Wren in the Holly Library. I usually don't pre-order books or buy like special editions, but like, come on, look at this. This is like the most beautiful book ever, and the sprayed edges are a little iffy, but the thing that makes this so beautiful is actually like the naked hardback. Like, let's look at this. Look at how beautiful that is. Like, that is absolutely stunning. And then there is artwork on the end pages. I'm pretty sure it's the same thing. Haven't read this yet. Probably gonna save this closer to the fall season because it's just giving those fall vibes. But this is definitely one of the most beautiful books I've bought in 2024. Okay, we're coming towards the end. The next prompt is, what books do you need to finish by the end of the year? And I definitely want to finish the Thursday Murder Club series. I have 2 more books in the series, but I'm pretty sure the 5th book comes out later this year, so want to get that done. I also want to, where is it? I want to get further into the Magnolia Park series. I've read Magnolia Parks and Daisy Hates, so I have 3 more books in that series. They're long books and they take a lot of effort to get through, but this is another book I want to finish by the end of the year. I'm not going to take the books out because I don't feel like it. I want to complete the Harry Potter series by the end of the year. I'm on book 4, so I have 4, 5, 6, and 7 left, but those are like the biggest, chunkiest books, so they're a little intimidating. That leads me into my next question, which is what are books you've been putting off? And I have definitely been putting off Harry Potter. I was like game for books 1, 2, and 3 because they're shorter, and Prisoner of Azkaban is like my favorite movie, but now the books get a little bit longer. So I've definitely been putting off reading them because I'm intimidated by the size of them, even though they are middle grade and I'll probably read them fairly quickly, but still been putting them off. And then the next book series that I've been putting off are these chunky boys behind me, Crescent City, for obvious reasons because they are very thick and very intimidating, and I'm just scared. I don't think I've ever read a book that are as long as these ones, so that's definitely another book I've been putting off. That leads me to my last question, which is, do I have any new goals for the end of the year? And the only thing I thought about when I did this was that I just want to stop buying so many books and just read down what I actually have on my physical TBR. If you have watched any of my reset videos, I do have a spread in my bullet journal that is like my project TBR, and I basically like calculate how many physical books I have that I haven't read, and I'm currently at 282, which is ridiculous, I know. But the problem is these new freaking releases that come out, I have to buy all of them for some reason. So I definitely want to utilize my library more and maybe use, the only problem is my library doesn't get all the new releases like right away. So it's kind of annoying, but that's definitely the only goal I have going into the end of the year, is just reading what I have instead of continuing to buy more new stuff. But I don't know how accurate I'm gonna be on that one. So that is all I have for you today. That is my mid-year freak out tag. I hope you enjoyed this video. I love talking about books, obviously, and this video was very fun for me because I was talking about all my favorite books and all the books I've loved so far in the year of 2024. Let me know down below any of the answers to the questions that you feel like you want to answer. Let me know what your favorite book of the year is so far, and let me know what goals you have going into the second half of the year. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, definitely let me know in the comments. Show this video some love. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel and you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I upload a video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!